Good morning. Huh. Good morning, guys. I can not really hear anybody, but it's okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay, I can hear somebody. Okay, so we have 4 people on right now. How are you guys doing with your papers?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
You almost done?
Yeah, with the rough draft.
With the visual analysis one?
Yeah.
So any questions on that, or you're doing well?
Okay. So you know how you said there was two papers? It was the rough draft, and then there's another one.
Oh, okay. So it's a 2-part thing. So the first part, you were just going to put down your ideas, and so that's what people did.
Okay.
Um, your name is not on there. What's your name?
Fernando.
Fernando. Okay, so did you send me anything?
Um, no, but I could send it today.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking. I don't think I've seen anything from you, but anyway. Okay, so yeah, so I'm looking at whatever people have done, and I'll be sending comments if you haven't gotten one.
Okay.
Yeah, so no worries about that. Um, the main thing is to follow that format. Were you at the last meeting? At the last
No,
Zoom meeting? No. So did you watch the thing on the YouTube channel?
no.
Yeah. Then, okay. So we kind of we went over the visual analysis, I think. Yeah. Um, today what we're going to do is a quick job on the visual analysis, making sure everybody understands. Um, making sure everybody understands that, then also the rhetorical analysis, because a lot of people still have to revise that, so we want to make sure that they know what they're doing on that one.
Which
So
one is that?
what? The
Which one?
Trump one, the
Oh,
dehumanization one?
I already turned that one in.
Yeah, so did you get it back? Did you get a pass on it?
No, I turned it into you on on Thursday or Friday.
Okay, all right, so I'll be giving you that back. Um, this is the first time you turned it in, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, I can't see right now.
Oh, all right, I don't know why. I think the internet is just kind of slow here. Um, did you get the analysis turned in ever of the 3-paragraph one?
Which one was that one? The single dad?
Yeah, the single dad.
Oh no, I'm still doing that one.
All right, so we just want to get that in because you seem to do pretty well. So
What do you?
you want to keep your average up. So okay, um, all right. Yeah, the way this thing works is if you want to if to see you, you put on the. Can you guys see the bottom of the page here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the bottom of the page says video. The thing on the very far left is your speaking button. It looks like a microphone, and then there's a video thing. Um, so that's what you guys should have that. This thing is recording as we speak. Um, I've also done a different class, and I've already recorded that and put it on the YouTube channel, so I can send you guys that link. I don't know that we actually need this one recorded. So I'll record it for a while and see, if it makes any sense to keep recording it. Otherwise, I'll just turn the recording off and we can talk. Um, okay, let me see. People are not in. Okay, we have 8 people listed, and something's not working here. All right, hopefully everybody's in. Okay, so the early parts of the meeting, we're just kind of talking about things you guys want to talk about, and then we go through all the stuff. Um, so that's good. We'll do all that. Um, so Raven, I see you're here today. How are you doing? Oh, Raven's here somewhere. Um, all right. There she is. Okay. Raven was here for a minute. I don't know. Maybe she'll be back. Okay. Um, yeah, so I recorded it for a different class and it's already up on the YouTube thing. I can send you guys the link for that one. But we'll go through it today just to make sure you guys understand. Does anybody actually have questions that you need to get answered? So Tali, any questions?
No.
No? Okay. Just gonna listen. All right. So all right. Celine, any questions?
No.
All right. Sabrina, any questions? Can you hear me maybe? I think you can. Sabrina, any questions? Okay. Melanie, any questions? All right. Fernando, we talked. Flora, any questions?
No.
Okay. Diana, any questions?
No.
All right. Raven, any questions? Raven, any questions? All right. So if you have your speaker on mute, then you can't talk. And if you don't have your video on, then we can't see you. So if you want to talk, make sure you turn that stuff on so we can do that. You might be asking questions as we go through it, and that would be something, you know, that might be good for you. All right, so we're going to be going through the visual analysis piece. And I'm just going to do this fairly quickly, not as quickly as, you know, I mean, it'll take probably half an hour. Still, I'm going to go through it for you guys. And then the other thing before I start this is if you have revisions, make sure you're getting your revisions in. After this week, I think we have 5 weeks in the class. The final of this visual analysis is going to be due Tuesday of next week. So you're going to turn something in on, well, actually, yeah, you're going to turn something in on Thursday, a complete draft. I'll look at it. If it's good and it's a pass, then it's a pass or a high pass. If it needs to be revised, I'll put revise on it, and then you'll have until Tuesday to do that. We're going to be also starting next week on the very last paper, which is the argument paper. And that's going to be about global warming, or actually climate change. I think global warming is the old idea. And the argument is going to be how to mitigate it. And I'm going to be sending you files on that to look at. Well, actually posting on the website here, posting the files. And then you can access those. And figure out what do you think the best way is to mitigate it, because we can't get rid of it, but we can maybe slow it down so that you guys can live out your lives reasonably with good air and good water. If we don't do anything about it, of course, it'll be a problem for you guys as maybe in your 50s. So something that's kind of important. All right. So that's sort of the general business. Let's look at the visual analysis for a minute. We're going to start with the outline. Okay. So here's the outline, and when we're looking at it, so most of these papers that I'm marking so far on the two introductory paragraphs don't have a hook. And this is a way to get people interested. So if you think about the dehumanization one, Trump's essay, well, not Trump's, Newkirk's essay on Trump, and he started with the idea that immigrants are animals. And the way he said that, or the way that Newkirk put that in there, got us kind of interested. So what is this thing about? You want something like that to get people interested. And it probably is going to relate to your theme. So if you're looking at, say, the little boy with the fake hand around his neck, you know that's about verbal abuse. So you might want to have a hook that sort of relates to that and gets people interested. Could be a quote, could be a statistic, um, could be something that you feel would be a controversial idea, something that you feel is important. After that, you want to have a bit of an overview, um, which would include a brief description, one or two sentences, of the image that you're looking at, because you don't want to get too far into the paper without kind of showing people in words what the image is, because they don't know. And then if there's a name to the visual, you want to put that in, who made it, you want to put that in, the year. Notice the year is in parentheses like that, just like in a précis. And then if there's any background of the author or publisher we need. So a lot of times somebody does the same kind of work all the time. They make the same kind of posters. The guy that made the little boy was Blake Ebel, but he's not very important. I mean, he made it. What's more important is the JPA, the Juvenile Protection Association, that actually paid to have it made. Their mission is to protect children. And so that's why they made this one, because research indicates that it's a real problem, not just for little kids, but as people grow up. Their sense of who they are makes them either more competitive or less competitive, more successful or less successful. So, and a lot of that goes back to the way the parents talk to them, make them feel. Okay, so after that, that blends right nicely, or connects right nicely to the purpose of what the piece might be. So why do we have this little kid looking at us? I mean, what's the message? What are we supposed to get out of it? And so we mentioned the genre. Is it a PSA, a public service announcement, a social commentary, where we're sort of showing people a mirror so they can see what they look like and how they treat people? Is it a political commentary where there's an issue, say, of human rights, like with the Trump, like with the Newkirk piece, and explain to the person you're writing to what is expected if I have a PSA or a public service announcement. Why? What is that for? And if it was a PSA, of course, it's because there's some health issue in society that they want you to be aware of, or even maybe do something about. Then that blends right in with the purpose, because if they want you to be aware, say, about verbal abuse, and they use a PSA, those two things work together. Who the target audience is important. It's not just a general people, it's not everybody. The message is directed to somebody. Again, if we were looking at the little boy, he's looking up, so we know it's somebody bigger than he is. Maybe his parents, or probably his parents. But it could be a teacher, it could be a older brother or sister. Somebody that he trusts is treating him badly. And he's trying to be tough, like a little boy would be, but it really hurts. It hurts almost like they hit him. That's what the hand is about. Those words are like choking him. And the problem with little kids is they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to defend themselves. So those would be things that would impact whether or not he could actually, deal with this abuser. And then the message is to stop. Stop doing this. It means more than you think it does. It's not just you yelling. It actually hurts somebody. And then the thesis, the last sentence in there is, was the message successful or not? So we want to state that. When we're talking about the genre, you guys have a handout that looks like this. It's also a file on your Canvas site here, and it explains what a public service announcement is, the elements of it. It's short, it wants to change attitudes or behaviors, uses emotion, And usually at the very bottom, it tags who the organization is. Sometimes it has their phone number at the bottom, things like that. It's trying to change attitudes and behaviors. That's that one. Um, and then it explains what a social commentary is. And then it talks about political criticism and satire. So refer to this when you're figuring out what it is, and think pretty clearly about what the image is that you're looking at. When you do the design analysis, which is the next paragraph that we'll sort of get into, you're going to use this chapter right here. So the outline just is sort of general there. It says, okay, design analysis, talk about the image in the text, for instance. How is the lighting in there? Is it something shaded? Is something unshaded? Is there color? Color often has to do with emotion. Who's the focus of the piece? Is there something in the background that's important? If we were looking at the Martin Luther King one, it's the question is Martin Luther King in the background? Because in the front of that image, we have a very big reverse text, reverse font, where normally we have black on white, but there we have white on black. It's very bold, and it's a statement that he was talking about Hitler about if you don't challenge things, if somebody makes it legal, it doesn't really mean it's ethical, is what he's talking about. So is that the focus of the piece, or is it the Martin Luther King's actually image in the very background? And in the very foreground of that one, there's a reference to the letter from Birmingham that he wrote, which of course is important. Those things all combined to create a message. So it's a complex message, and you would want to discuss each one of those elements. In some of the pieces you're working with, they may have a narrative, a story. So what's the story with the little boy? What's going on there? Symbols, again with the little boy, he's got that fake hand around his neck. We know it's not real. It's made out of words. It's called a visual metaphor. And a visual metaphor means I want to show you what this might be like. And so when you yell at that little boy, it's like you're taking at your hand and squeezing his neck with your words. So that's really pretty powerful. If we look at those two pages in chapter 6, which you guys have, then it first of all does an overview. And so if you haven't looked at this, you want to look at this. So the writer designer is up at the top of this thing when we're thinking of how to think about it. And so he or she creates this visual that's in the center of the whole thing. He has a purpose or she has a purpose. And sometimes it's combined with text. And when you do that, it changes the visual, the text adds to it, it changes the whole meaning. We're very interested in the context because we want to know the context can be immediate, as it says right above this visual. Like it could be in a particular magazine, a newspaper, a website that normally has a certain audience. It could be more general in terms of cultural context of the, let's see, of the place it's posted. So if it were posted in a school, say in Southwestern, what would be the cultural context of that? I'm going to mute you guys for a minute because I can hear stuff. That's all. Okay.
Mr. Osborne, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
we haven't been
Oh,
able to hear you since you said you were gonna put us on mute.
well, I'll go back over it. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. So did you hear this part right here, or should we go back over it?
Can we go back?
Yes, absolutely. So we're looking, so was it just this page or the page before?
I believe it was the page before.
All right, so let me go back one to this. So if we didn't hear this one, we were talking about when you look at the introduction, you're supposed to be saying what genre is it. So if it were a PSA, it explains that here. And for instance, a PSA is short. It's supposed to change attitudes or behaviors. Usually it relies on emotion, connecting with the person looking at it because of their values. And at the bottom of the piece, there's usually the name of the organization. Sometimes sort of a motto. We were looking at the very skinny girl that's trying to throw up and put her fingers in her mouth, um, the little motto at the bottom says, "Help us save them from themselves," which communicates something because then we realize, oh, we should be doing something about this. And so it's causing us to maybe become aware or even act. As a matter of fact, in that one, there's a phone number in the right-hand corner to call if you feel it's the person's really sick. So changes attitudes and behaviors. So it explains what a PSA does. And then the next page, and again, you have these things in your files. So you just look through the files. There's on the left of your Canvas screen, it says files. Click on files and then click through that and you'll find all these. The social commentary is sort of putting a mirror to us and showing us how we are, if we're good people or if we're not good people. And usually it appeals to people's sense of justice, things that are not fair. And then the last two pieces are political criticism. So if we were looking at the one with the little napalm girl and Ronald McDonald and the Mickey Mouse, it's a sort of commentary on who we are, especially the way we represent ourselves, how we treat children in other countries. Because if you know the history of that, we know the little girl was bombed. I mean, bombed with us, but we bombed her, dropping napalm that burned her really badly. And what Banksy did with that one is he makes the two iconic Mickey and Ronald McDonald are like pulling her along. She doesn't want to go, but they're pulling her, and they're smiling. And it's also what you might call macabre if you've seen sort of scary movies where the victim is being kind of controlled by the mean people. And then satire is the other thing where it's just ridiculing, it's making fun. It's trying to shame you and look at what you're doing. This is ridiculous. So those are the genres. Okay, and so if we were looking at the introduction, when we're looking about in the middle of it, after you've talked about the purpose, you want to explain what the genre is because that relates to the purpose. How do you achieve the purpose? If it's a PSA, public service announcement, and you want to talk about verbal abuse, that's why you're doing it. And it's because you're concerned about young children's mental health and the way their parents might be treating them. Okay. Then if we go back to this one, these are just the 2 pages in chapter 6. So this piece right here represents the whole process of creating and what it looks like to make an image. So we have the writer or the designer at the top of this piece. This person has created this visual. and sometimes they add text to it, sort of that changes the meaning a little bit. And so once it's created, we want to know where was it created? So that's called the immediate context there, which can influence it. In other words, was it first published in a magazine, a particular magazine, a newspaper? Because those people all have particular audiences. And then the more general context, the cultural context. So if we saw a particular image that was taped up, say, on one of the classroom walls at Southwestern, it might change the way it originally was. Now we're not talking, say, to parents anymore with the little kid. We're talking to, say, older brothers and sisters, or just young adults that might notice something is going on and they might say something. Down at the bottom is the audience, and that's when you're trying to figure out what's the purpose. Then again, when we're looking at whether or not this message was successful, that last sentence in the introduction, that's where we would be considering this. So how did this work to achieve its message? Was it successful? And then back to the techniques. So this one, the first one is talking about the composition, what's actually in the image. Think about the layout. What are the pieces in there? If we were looking at the table with the older man, and then there's some boys going around it, we can see that he's going to hit the boy that spilled the milk. And then if we look closely at it, we see that the boys become older boys, and the hurt then turns into anger, and then it turns into the father who's actually striking his son, which is a little strange that he has incorporated this hurt inside of himself and has decided he wants to punish someone. Or maybe he just doesn't know how to handle his emotions. He's not acting as an adult. He's not acting as a good parent. And physically striking his son. The balance there has to do a lot with the kitchen table, and all the people going around it sort of creates a balance and also a message. The color in that particular one, with the circle of violence, is this, what they call a sepia. It's kind of a brown. And so if we were wanted to talk about color, we would say, well, maybe they chose the brown because it's sort of dark, and the emotion that he has is sort of dark. It's not a happy kitchen. It's a sort of unhappy kitchen, and there's a lot of emotion there, anger. So maybe that's to represent that. The key figures, of course, are the man and the boys. I'm thinking personally that this symbol, the kitchen table, could be a symbol, because when we think of family life and where we mostly communicate with our family, it's often around a kitchen table. It's where we eat together. It's where we talk about issues. It's where we share things. So I think that might be sort of symbolic of maybe the dysfunction in this particular family because of the unhappiness there. And then cultural references, that is obviously in a Mexican household, but it could be in any household. I think that could actually also be in the United States or anywhere, because many males in the United States and elsewhere have the same issues, have the same problems, and act out the same way. So in terms of cultural reference, in terms of the broad cultural reference, I think the specific one or the immediate one was Mexico, but the broad reference would be all of us looking at it can probably get something out of that. The message would be to change our behavior, look what you're doing. So that's that. Those are those questions. And then if we have text in addition, if we're looking over here on the left side of the page, we want to know what is the meaning of the text and how does it complement or work together with the visual to communicate something. We would also talk about the size of the font in the text, the letters, because if they're small, it's not meant to distract. It's meant to add in some way some maybe information. If it's large, it's not just information, it's demanding attention. So what attention is it demanding? Context we just talked about. The genre we talked about could be a PSA social commentary, political commentary. So when we get that done, we've gotten some really good information. Other specific questions: who's pictured, who are the key, how are they arranged, what's the relationship between the main figure and the background, who's excluded from this piece, does the use of color, contrast of light and shade, or repeated figures represent something, and then how do these composition details come together to create the message or the purpose. The focal point: is there a focal point? When you guys start your design analysis paragraph, you probably want to start with something like, when someone first looks at the image, what the eye first sees, and then start describing it and go through the whole image so that people have a logical way of conceptualizing what that whole thing looks like. Don't pick random things. And then probably some kind of commentary on how this works to contribute to the message. What story or narrative does a visual or image suggest? If there's a story, you think it's really talking about something. Is there something that's a symbol? Again, with the boy, we know that's a visual metaphor, that hand. Another thing is, who has the power in the visual? So if we were looking back at the Napalm Girl, that with Mickey Mouse and Ronald McDonald holding her hands, she doesn't have the power. Those corporate representatives have the power. So in that way, that's kind of a comment on the United States and maybe how corporations influence us in terms of our actions. Some of the images might, you think, have a sexist, racist, or body image stereotype that they're trying to exploit and discuss. All of these things. So all of this goes into the design analysis. And then if we were looking at, so that's a big paragraph. And then the cultural context here is where we talk about why is this important in, say, where we are. Is it important, say, the boys, the cycle of violence? Is it important in Mexico? Is it important in the United States, and why? This is also where we would talk about the appeals. So appeals to reason and logic, to emotion or character and credibility. The boy, I think many people would say it's pathos because it makes us feel an emotion. Also, maybe with the cycle of violence or circle of violence, with the man going to hit his child, if we can relate to that in some way, we may see it as wrong. If we've had that experience, we know it hurts more than it appears, and may change the way we act. So that would be pathos. Logos would be where there's some information there. In the Martin Luther King one, the quote that's placed over the image sort of is giving us information, and then under it, the reference to the letter to Birmingham is also giving us information. So that's logos. Any of those pieces could be argued as giving credibility or ethos to the person that made it, like the little boy with the hand around his neck at JPA, Juvenile Protection Association, makes them more credible that they're actually doing what they said they were doing. They're trying to protect kids. We do have a couple of examples that are included in your files. So look at the examples, they give you some ideas. This is the one, the bulimic woman, the really skinny woman. And so he's talking about it. This one was written 2 years ago when I first did this. So he didn't have, we wrote it up on the board, but he didn't have a handout that showed him how to do things. So you notice he doesn't have a hook, but he has started with trying to get us to connect, because he says, eating disorders involve distortion of the body, and not the natural body, and an obsessive desire to lose weight. So maybe that would be interesting to some people and they would read into it. And so he gives us background there. He does talk about the purpose. he doesn't, I don't think, say what the genre of this one is. Oh, yes, he does there. So he does do that. Target audience, he doesn't have. And, but his thesis, he has the successful piece. So he's got most of what he needs. He decided to do his second paragraph as the research paragraph, which is okay. I mean, you can switch them around a bit if you feel like it. Just don't wait for the design analysis paragraph too long, because people are interested in the image. So I think it's better to put it right after the introduction, but some people maybe will do the research and talk about the cultural context first, and then describe it. Here's his design analysis. And he's trying to describe it. So he says the image shows a young woman ducking down with her hand in her mouth. And so he's trying to go through it like that. And as he does it, he's trying to bring in some of those ideas. So he thinks there's some metaphorical symbols, because if you look at her hand stuffed in her mouth, could that be a gun? If it's a gun and she shoots the gun, is that brain splatter coming out of her head? So, and then when we look at the brain splatter of that stuff coming out of the back of her head, we notice it's words, it's actually facts. So then we see that's sort of a logos thing. So this is pretty good description here. And then he talks about light and dark and some symbols, stereotypes like that. What he leaves out is this paragraph. He leaves out this fourth paragraph where you want to explain what's the impact on the audience. And to do that, you have to evaluate the evidence, the stuff that you're looking at, how it may work to appeal to someone. Is it ethos, pathos, or logos? And connect to maybe their behavior or their culture. And so you want to have a paragraph, that does that. Okay. And then he's got, in this example, he says he's got two paragraphs for his conclusion. I'm not really sure why. I think he's trying to do the fourth paragraph here. He talks about empathy when we look at this skinny girl. If he said pathos, we would maybe understand it more. But he does say the audience can see the empathy, so maybe the audience would be impacted in that way if he'd said it. And his conclusion is really short. We don't want one that short. Oops. But he does say what it's supposed to do. And it's not terrible. It's just not, as good as it could be. Okay. So that's all these things that you guys have to really look at that should help you out when you're writing it. Anybody have questions on their own? So I sent you guys back the ones that you guys had done on the two paragraphs. I sent back commentary on that. I don't know where you are in the process of writing it. We do want to complete rough draft by Thursday. And there's two parts to that. So the first part of the visual analysis was just the two paragraphs. The second part of the visual analysis asks you to post a complete draft. So you can post on both places. If you do the two paragraphs, I'll give you some feedback. Actually, the two paragraphs are the ones people have the most difficulty on. The rest of the essay is pretty easy. Well, I won't say easy, but pretty standard. You've done stuff like that before. So let's see. So I've unmuted you if you have a question. Do you have a question? Anybody questions?
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, where do we turn in the under what assignment name do we
For
turn
what?
it in?
For
The complete.
Okay. Let me see if I can show you. They were fixing the website, Southwestern. Let me see if I can go there and show you. It's just easier to do that. So let me share. And then we'll go there. Okay. Oh, good. It's back up. All right. Um, okay. All right. So under assignments, this first one, it says online one, visual analysis, design, analysis, and introduction paragraphs. That's for the 2 paragraphs. This next one, it says online one, visual analysis, complete rough draft. You would post it to that one. So if we click on, whoops, I better not do that. Let me go back for a minute. The way you guys see it is different than the way I see it. Okay. Yep, this is the way you guys see it. So if I clicked on this one, the one where you're supposed to put the complete one, it's got 2 things. So this was a video I posted up, just I wanted to make sure you guys had that, which some people looked at and some people didn't. If you missed class, that was to help you out. And this sort of explains those steps again, because people were confused. They were putting, I don't know, sometimes the whole thing on the first assignment part, and I don't know, they were just confused. So this goes through it again, what you were supposed to do. And up here, it says submit assignment. So once you've kind of, typed it up, you click submit assignment. Let's see if I do that, what'll happen. And then it's going to say choose your file. If you click on choose your file, it'll bring it up. You can do it from Google Drive if you want. Choose your file that way. And then you can put a comment in here if there's something you want to say about your paper. And then click submit assignment. If you ever put on the wrong assignment and you want to change it, if you go back to the piece, it's not going to say, whoops, where do we go? It's not going to say submit assignment. It'll say resubmit. I've lost what it is. So you can just resubmit over it. It'll just paste it over top of that first one if you put the wrong one on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I think I
Okay.
already submitted one to that one, so I'll do that.
Yeah, so that's all you do. Okay, get out of that. Any other questions on this site here? So the first thing you see when you look at this site, well, I don't know what it's doing now. When you look at the site, then you're going to see all this. This is the recent activity. It'll be announcements, assignment notifications if there's something to do. If you just want to click on announcements, it'll bring all the announcements up so you can see, you can kind of look at this and see things we were talking about.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. I'm not sure if it's me, but I can't see your screen.
I can see it either.
You
Oh,
can see? Okay, hold on. Let me see about that. Can you see it now?
It's black. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so many people using the internet, sometimes it just, I mean, doesn't work that great. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so these are all the assignments. And then if you had something from the old stuff that you're trying to resubmit. So here's one, on-campus class revisions of the 3-paragraph assignment. So if there's something you had to do there, maybe you had to do the analysis again, revise it, you can post it on this one. If there's a rhetorical analysis, most people had to revise that. You can just post it here. Click on it, post it. We'll say upload assignment, you can do it there. Sometimes we have discussions, or actually let's see if this is going to come up. Yes, you're right. It's a little slow here. Oh, there it goes. Um, and so I just put on there that it's sort of an open thing. If you have a question, you can just type in your question. And then people can answer you, or I can answer you, that kind of stuff. Um, you can look at your grades over here. We don't do grades. You know, with the grades, the way it works is if you have passes on everything, you'll get a B. If you have passes and some revise, if you have the big thing that's still a revise, like the Trump piece, that's not good. That'll bring your grade down because it's the biggest paper we write. So everybody needs to actually do that one. So if you click on grades, you can see what you submitted and what you haven't submitted, but it's not going to give you a grade. It will tell you something's missing. And then people, you can see who's in the class. If you want to communicate with them, you do that there. Question, somebody?
Um, I do have a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering if in the end of the class, if you have a moment, we can get over my rhetorical analysis together so I can see if I make a mistake so I can fix it.
Yeah, why don't we do that at the end of this class? At the
Yeah.
end of the, yeah, okay, sure. Just stay on and I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yep. Files. I'm just going through this page. So files will be all the stuff. If you notice, these are the main handouts that you guys got. Also Zoom lectures. I'm trying to put the Zoom lectures in this folder for you guys. And then it's for the visual images. Those are all the images. If we wanted to click on one, we could actually see those pictures. Like this one, I don't know what it is. Yeah, there's the Mickey Mouse one. And you can look at it and talk about it, or you can. So those are the files. And those are the main things you need to actually be looking at for this. Other than that, you don't really need anything like this. Okay. So again, any questions with all of that?
Nope.
No? Okay, some people are quiet, which is fine. You can be quiet. So also, I want to go through the Trump one, the dehumanization one, in case somebody needs it. If you don't need it, you can just click off now and have a good day. If you do need it, then that's what I'm going to be talking about next. So, up to you. All right, so let's see. Let me find all this stuff. By the way, I wanted to show you. So the YouTube thing has all these lectures on here. And this is the one I was talking about that's pretty much similar to the one we're doing today that, you guys can look at if you wanted to. So that's the YouTube piece. Okay, I'll pull up the other files. I don't think I have them up yet. So this is the essay that we're talking about now, and then I'll go through that, but I want to show you the directions first. So this is one where it's marked out. I'm pretty sure you guys didn't mark yours, but I thought I would go through it. At least then you'll know, well, how's this thing supposed to be written? And then you basically have an introduction. You have a thesis that makes the argument that Newkirk is effective and successful in with his three claims, and the three claims that you look at in communicating to the target audience why it's important when somebody dehumanizes another, that it means something. It has a real world impact. That would be your thesis in it. So that's how that introduction looks. And then you have three three body paragraphs. And the body paragraphs each represent a claim. And they have a process that you go through. And then you have a conclusion that sort of is a short discussion of why it's successful or why it worked or didn't work. So that's a quickie overview. So it's five paragraphs. In the introduction, when we go through that, we would like a hook. It doesn't say hook, but we want a hook. You want to identify the article that you're analyzing and refer to it as the text. This other stuff here is really the précis. So rhetorical situation, text author, intended audience, context, short summary. If you put your précis in there, it's pretty much covered, all this stuff that it's asking about. So the only thing you would add after the hook and the précis is the thesis, and it's answering whether or not the author was successful. And we're talking Newkirk, not Trump. And in regards to those three claims. My dog is in here. My dog is antsy. Okay. So the thesis is usually at the end of the paragraph, and it does exactly what we talked about. And here's an example of one. So this guy, so here's the name of the article. This guy, this guy doesn't, I know, she's needy.
Oh, so cute.
I know, it's so cute.
Yeah.
My Doberman is sleeping next to me too.
Yeah. Well, she's yeah, she's cute. So anyway, that's is a kind of a thesis, and so it identifies the article, the author, and then how it happens. So that's where you would put right in here. You would put your three claims, and then the last part would be, does it effectively convince whoever you think the target audience is? Target audience for the dehumanization one is probably change makers, people who want to make, who are interested in social justice. It could be immigrants, but they already know, so it's not so much them. It could also be Trump supporters, because maybe they haven't looked at it that way. Maybe they don't see the other side of this way of speaking about people and don't understand it. So those might be the big groups, I think. When you're looking at tools inside the body paragraphs, tools are really the strategies, rhetorical strategies. So things like anecdotes. So if you think about Daniel Ramirez, he used Daniel Ramirez and his story as part of the evidence for the claim that there's actually policy and human rights implications in that claim. If we looked at the first claim, he's using authorities, so he's using Trump's words and Trump's secretary, press secretary, when she repeats what he said. So there's some stuff and you decide what you think you're seeing there. So I just wanted to put the strategies up there. Body paragraphs have a particular format. So let me just tell you what the format is. It's in there, but it's not, I think, as clear as it could be. So you begin with the topic sentence in a body paragraph is the claim. So you want to state what the claim is. And then you want to have a quote. Something from the, how good is that? You want to have something from the text that shows that, in fact, he did that. Then you want to explain the quote. What does the quote mean? And what you, like if you quoted in the binary one, where he's talking about how, or she's talking about how he's not even mean enough, he should be meaner. And then explain how that relates to the claim, supports the claim. We want to know what strategy that was. We want to know, if it worked. So you want to explain that strategy. In that case, we would say probably using authorities because that's a quote. It was probably targeted at the people we said it was targeted at. I think they would react to that because that's a bit extreme. And the appeal would probably be there for many people, pathos, because it might make them angry that, he says these things about people. It's also generalizing. So it's not some immigrants, it's not some MS-13 people, it's all immigrants become this thing, which is wrong. And that creates racism and all kinds of stuff. So that might make people angry in many ways. It's also logos, it is a fact, it's a factual thing. And it's also ethos because it adds credibility to the author's argument. Look what this person said, let me explain what it is. So all of those things would go together to say that the impact on the target audience probably made them, I don't know, now be aware, or made them understand, made them listen more carefully when he speaks. Any of those things would be good. So that's what the body paragraph does. Now I'll go through these directions because, So it says topic sentence that goes back to your thesis, which mentions one of those claims supporting the argument. And so body paragraph, format, topic sentence, short quote, analysis of that quote, how that quote exemplifies a particular strategy, and furthers the author's purpose. So the appeals and the impact of that. The quote shouldn't be huge. There should be at least 3 times more analysis than quoted text. So don't give me, endless quoted text. And we want to know if the evidence is credible, relevant, and sufficient. So credible means that it's respected, it's from a respected source. Relevant means it actually applies to the topic, it makes sense. And sufficient means it's enough. And then the appeals and the impact on the target audience. We have all that going on in your body paragraphs. They're sort of complex. This is a refresher for ethos, pathos, and logos if you don't remember, right in there. And then the conclusion, in the conclusion you want to talk about how these claims were important to sort of explain to the cause the target audience to either change their mind or become more aware. And then talk about that for a while, and then sort of create, zoom out, and sort of talk about what does it mean when somebody is saying things like this in our society, especially it's a free society, it's a democracy. What does it mean? I mean, what's the larger impact? And then back to the, so that's the significance of the entire essay, or significance of the discussion in terms of dehumanization. So that's the directions. Then, let's see. Okay. Some of this stuff is, is underneath this. So I'm gonna come back to this. Nope. So does anybody have any questions about what's going on? If you came in late, this is being recorded so you can watch it maybe later. And then toward the end of this, we'll have questions. So I'm not going to share for a minute. I'm just going to go back to that piece because I want to bring it up there. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the share screen. So questions on the process of doing it?
Mm,
Nobody? Okay.
No,
All
not
right.
right now.
Not right now. Okay. So back to this piece, we go through the essay itself, this one. And we notice there's the first page. When we look at this. Oh, that went fast. And now we don't have the picture. Okay. But after the picture and the title, and if we were at the top, what you could see is that they have the author's name. So it's von Newkirk. That's his name. And then there's a date, 2018, when it was published. There's a title up there. There's also the place it was published, the Atlantic. So that's all information you would need for your thesis. The Atlantic should be in italics. The title should be in quotes. When we start the essay, we're looking at this initial quote. And that's kind of a hook that's trying to get us mad, or at least get us interested. All of this right here is explaining the situation. None of this is an argument, or rather, none of this is a claim. It explains the situation. What does it mean? What is this quote? Why were we talking about this quote? And in this piece right here, why does it matter? Why does what matter? Why does dehumanizing someone really matter? And he's going to answer that. That becomes his argument. Dehumanization matters because. And so now, we go to the next page, we have the claim. I think we said that the first 3 paragraphs here, these 3, whoops. That's the first claim. We did that in class. And if we look at that when we're going through it, we don't find the claim right away. We see it's talking about it. In this case, they give us the evidence first. They talk about Trump's rationale, why he's saying this thing. They have this quote from Sanders that just doubles down on it. And then it's here in the 3rd paragraph when they say what the claim is. So this is a binary claim, that word binary we looked at. And we looked at the article, is he black or is he white? It's a binary thing. You're either good or you're bad. You're either us, the good people, or you're them, the bad people. In doing that, there's this, as he says, Newkirk says this, there's a certain moral clarity, meaning we feel fine. We don't feel bad about judging these people because we've been told they're not good, and we know we're the good ones, and so we don't mind judging them. And these become very effective, and both in making, say, Trump supporters support him, and the people that would be the opposition, sort of making them weak, because it's a simplistic worldview. You only have 2 choices. You can either side with the animals or the humans. So that's very hard to defend, that kind of thing, especially if you're saying, well, wait a minute, not all immigrants are animals. That's wrong. So you support those animals, huh? Then you don't support the people, us, the good people. What's wrong with you? So that's the claim, and that's how the claim is explained. Again, if you went through your format, you would do claim, quote, explain it, strategy, explain the strategy, who's the target audience, what sort of evidence do you have, is it relevant, sufficient, credible? And then what appeals were used for the target audience and what's the impact? What did it make them do? Okay, so that's the first one. And then if we go down the page, excuse me, we have the second one. And he says, Newkirk says, so the real word is a little more complicated, of course. Here's what he says. There's policy and human rights implications. Meaning, when the president says something, people think that becomes the law. It doesn't really become the law. Um, I mean, he can order certain things, but he can't change the law. So that's your claim. And then this is explaining how he does this thing. He's again talking about the animals and all this. And see, all of this in here, this piece right here is what you call hyperbole. So he takes a very extreme example and he's talking about how this young, beautiful girl and others, they slice them and dice them with a knife because they want them to have pain. That's extreme and that's hyperbole, which we know is not what Mexicans do. It's not what immigrants do. It's MS-13. But he doesn't say that, does he? He says they. You've seen these stories about these animals. So that's also a generalization. It's a bunch of stuff. Okay. And if we're looking at the evidence then, we go, the unclarity becomes how the federal government targets immigrants because they're not clear. They're sneaky. And so what happened, here's the example. So we have this guy, Daniel Ramirez, arrested by ICE. Even though he's a DACA kid, he's protected. He's not to be deported. ICE grabbed him and said, "Oh, that tattoo, that like flower or whatever it was on you, you know, that's a gang tattoo, and so we're going to deport you." And then, of course, the judge says, "No, you can't do that. That you can't do." Oops. And so when Newkirk finishes talking about Ramirez, he also mentions the Marshall Project. And the Marshall Project is an organization that sort of keeps the records on how often does this happen, the statistics on it. And they said, hey, from what we can tell, the criteria to be considered a member of a gang is not very precise. And so many people can be grabbed and not really be part of the gang. Okay, and then he actually mentions the separation of the mothers from the children in those cages, and brings back the idea of animals. So again, that's strong evidence to support that there's policy and human rights implications. This piece here is another claim, and it's the one that I think people find difficult, but they really shouldn't. So Newkirk is smart. He says, look, some people are going to just say Trump is sloppy. He's just sloppy with his words. Newkirk says, no, he's not sloppy. He's doing something for a purpose. And so this is the way Newkirk says it. He overcomplicates it. But what it means is, when you use extreme words to talk about somebody, you call, say, immigrants animals. You've created a stereotype. You've created this thing where there's us, the good guys, and them, the bad guys. So what you've actually done is you've used extreme words, draconian rhetoric. So the combination of using extreme words and cutting out the difference between the real person and this persona that's been created, because the persona that Trump creates is not real. But people who don't know much about immigrants believe it. So when they see an immigrant, they think of the persona, they think of the stereotype. And Newkirk says this is the crux of how racism has worked. This is the way racism has always worked. So that's what Trump is doing. It's not sloppy. It's not careless. It's pointed. He's doing it on purpose. Um, and then Newkirk says, and if you don't believe me, there's a historical example I can show you, super predator. So this is the example supporting that claim. And he explains what happens in 1996, that this guy came up with this theory about juvenile criminals, and some he said were super predators. Um, and it was so powerful, and the media picked it up and made everybody scared. And so even people like Hillary Clinton jumped on the bandwagon, which was seems very odd, but you know, it's not 1996 anymore. You guys, this is how many years? 25 years later. So you can't judge somebody based on 25 years ago, because all the policymakers, all the people that were in government believed it. Because this guy, John DeLulio, is from Princeton. He's supposed to be very smart. So they all believed him. And so, but what happened is, as the usual thing, what happened was the people that actually were put in jail were 80% of the juveniles sentenced to life without parole were minorities. Because again, in people's head, there's the us and the them. And even worse, because they got real scared, the black youths became made to be less than human. They were especially targeted. So that's a good fact right there. That's the logos that backs up that claim about racism and how it works. Okay, then the last one we look at is this one. And so what Newkirk keeps bringing back is, he says, the true peril, the true danger of Trump's comments, the true danger. What's the true danger? And he says, the state will be further empowered to suspend human rights. In other words, racism, stuff like that. So he says this dehumanization is not just about words. It's a well-known psychological and sociological process by which people are conditioned to accept increasingly inhumane condition and punishment for other people, not for themselves. So it's psychological and sociological. That's your claim. And again, I mean, for me, I always think about if you were in Germany when Hitler was in charge, and you were at your window eating, say, dinner or breakfast or something, and saw a train going by with all those Jewish people that you knew were going to be killed, but you were comfortable in your house, you had food, and you didn't care about them because they weren't human. That's the kind of thing Trump is trying to do. It's very dangerous. As a matter of fact, as evidence of that, this guy, this New York lawyer, Schlossberg, was screaming at this restaurant employee because he was speaking Spanish, telling him he was going to call ICE on him. Because Schlossberg was thinking, well, it's us, the good guys, and there he is. There's that persona. There's that bad guy. There's that animal. I've got to get rid of them. So it worked just the way that Newkirk says. And then Newkirk has a final paragraph here that answers this question: why is it bad? Why should we be worried about the kind of words people use for people? And he says some people think, the Trump supporters think, that the use of animals, that sort of wording, is just a return to Pax Americana, the peace of America. In other words, make America greater by getting rid of these animals. He says that's not really what it's about. It's more regular harassment for people of color, increased acceptance of brutality, and extra legal, in other words, not legal practices. And he says, that's what happens when people stop being people. That's what happens when we take a group of people and you dehumanize them. You make them no longer a person. Okay. So that's that whole thing, which is why it's a pretty compelling piece. Okay, questions on that?
No.
No. So again, this thing's going to be recorded and posted probably not until tonight because it takes about 3 or 4 hours to download. It takes a while. So I'll send you the link when it's up. In the meanwhile, I can send you the link to the 120 class, which is pretty much the same, maybe not in as much detail. But I can send you that in the meanwhile if you want to just look at that one over again. Okay. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'll let you go. If you have a question, then you can hang on, or I think somebody wanted me to talk about their prases. So have a good day.
All right, bye, Mr. Osborne.
Bye.
Good
Have a good
morning.
day.
Yesenia.
Bye, Lily.
Bye-bye. So Tali, were you the one that wanted to look at the prases?
Yeah, and the what was the name? The rhetorical analysis.
Right. So what do you want to do? You just want to look at it again?
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering if we can look it together and then like you can like point out my mistakes or like tell me what I can do to improve it.
So how would I look at your prases?
I believe you haven't looked at it.
Where is it?
I sent it like 2 weeks ago, I believe, through Canvas.
Oh, through Canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Canvas. So what assignment did you put it on?
Well, it was the kitchen.
No, I mean what? Wait a minute. You did a praise on the kitchen with the boys? I mean, the man and the boys?
Yep.
Okay, well, you didn't need to do a praise for that. Are you talking about introduction?
No, I mean, I'm talking about like I did everything, like the 2 paragraphs, like with
Oh,
the introduction, with the
so
body, and
you
then
want to
the
look at that one?
yeah,
Okay.
if it's
Okay.
not possible.
I think it is. We will see. We will go here. We'll go there. Uh-oh. This is weird. Oh, I know.
Okay.
Okay, so Tally, so I put it out.
Okay.
All right. So, okay. So did you look at this stuff over here?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, maybe I can just talk to you.
I also have a question.
Yes.
But if you want to also, after you finish, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I can do you after. Let me just talk to you. You can watch this too. Maybe this will help you.
Okay.
We're looking at her introduction of the kitchen circle one. Um, so here when we're, let me make this a little bigger. Oh well. So when we're starting this, maybe I have to make it smaller. When we're starting this first piece I wanted to know, so you identify the name of it,
Mm-hmm.
who did it, the year, which is all good, and then here you should put what's pictured. So what do we see there in this kitchen circle, where we would probably see an adult male, probably the father, beginning to strike his young child, and other boys are walking around the table, possibly the young child becoming older, even becoming a man. So you'd want to put that there. And then,
So basically, it's describe the photo, right?
the photo, yeah, we want to put that there because
Okay.
you're going into all this stuff, and then people don't know what you're talking about. You know,
Got it.
I see you've got some stuff down in here that's very detailed, maybe more detail than you need to have, but here you just jump, like, what does this picture look like? We want to know, so you would put that there. We
Okay.
have a lot of background on the Save the Children, which is fine. And then this piece right here is in the wrong spot. So, oops, sorry. So this piece is in yellow right here is in the wrong spot. This should go in paragraph 4. That's what that's about.
Okay.
Because that's talking about impacting the target audience. Oops, fine. You say the target audience is families, adults who, okay, so that's a good description of the target audience. And then make sure, like with this, you capitalize the first word in all your sentences because you're not doing that.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought I already did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so do that. And so this is a long description of all the people that we see in the piece. Okay. All right. And, you know, this should be hit. So there's some stuff over there, just the words.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part of this piece is supposed to be the thesis. Is it successful and why? So you kind of left that out. In the design analysis.
So, like, for example, in that one
Mm-hmm.
that has like purple that told me that this is the thesis. So when you was explaining what was thesis about, it's like the message that we want to share.
No, the thesis is if the image is successful, communicating its message. Is it successful? Like, what did it make them do? Why would it be successful? You have to say successful or not. That's because you guys are doing an analysis. Analysis wants to know, hey, did this work or no? So you have to say that in your thesis. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then some stuff in here. So it's not a living room, it's a kitchen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
And then you have this piece you need to finish, and you have showing 5 individuals what? Circling a table, so that's why I put that. And then this other stuff is just mostly wording you need to fix.
Okay.
Let me find the next one of these. This is just punctuation. And this one you're talking about, you say the cultural context is from Mexico. The people from the photo look like Latinos.
Mm-hmm.
But so what I'm telling you, that's the immediate cultural context is Mexican. But it applies to all families where males don't know how to manage their anger or emotion. So you want to bring that out because remember, the context is 2 things. It's immediate, which is the Mexican family there in that photo. And then the other thing is, what's the broader cultural context? So now that we're looking at it in the United States, does it apply to us? And yeah, if we look at the United States, sure. Many families are the same way. It's not unique to Mexico at all.
Okay.
And then what else here? Oops. And overall, I just think you need to edit a little more so that it flows. You know, make sure that you're looking at one idea flows into the next. The sentences are not are smooth looking. You know what I mean? If you read the sentences out loud, you can kind of tell if they need to be fixed up a little bit.
Like to add a little bit more like
Well, sometimes it's adding more, and sometimes it's just the words you put in the sentence. It's unclear. Or it's too many.
okay. So basically it's good, but I just need to fix like a little things.
Yeah, those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is due on Thursday, right?
The whole thing is good.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop this for a minute. All right, so Tali, so you have your questions answered?
I do, and I also send the essay, the dehumanization one, and
Okay.
you haven't graded that, right?
No, I've been doing technology. I had to make the YouTube channel, which I'm not good at, but I did that. I'm learning Zoom. I'm learning Canvas, just like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pulling away from me, you know, with the papers.
No,
I'm finally catching up with all that.
yeah, I got it. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Osborne, for helping me out. That
Oh, sure.
really helps me.
Good. Alrighty. See you then.
See ya.
Melanie, you got a question?
Yes, and it's Servando. Yeah.
It's who?
Servando?
Oh, yes, that's right. Why you have Melanie on there?
I
Never
don't
mind.
I already created my account, but I don't know why it's still appearing your account. Oh.
That's funny. That's funny, Melanie.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.
Alright.
So
Okay.
I saw you send me my review,
Yeah.
but from the inside I don't see any review.
Oh, so what's your last name?
Mora.
Mora. So, oh, is this on the one we were looking at?
Yes. Also,
Okay.
where is the same topic?
Okay, hold on. Let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to review. You must be the next one. There. Okay, so your ideas, I think, are pretty good. So that's very interesting what you've done. So what I told you here was you have good ideas, but you want to make sure you do the discussion prompts, so the things it requires. So for instance, if I were looking at the prompt, we want to have the name of the visual, what it's called. This one I think is this, yeah, circle of violence or cycle of violence. We want to know the purpose. We want to know the genre. Is it a PSA, social commentary, satire, political? See, we have that over there on that little note.
Yes.
We want to know who the target audience is. So you want to look at all these things and make sure that you have what the introduction for the prompt is asking for.
Okay.
But your writing is interesting. I like it. I mean, it should be pretty good when you're done. But you have to put all that in there. And then the second paragraph, again, is a similar discussion, but it's not a design analysis. I think this particular paragraph could be maybe paragraph 3, where you're talking about the cultural context. And you would want to bring some research into it. Like, you know, how typical is physical violence in families between, I don't know, parents and children. So look that up on Google if you want. Bring in a couple of facts we want to know. And we want to know how important is it in the United States. If you look up the facts, you're going to find out there's a lot of physical violence, a lot of abused children. And I don't think the parents often realize that they're not disciplining the child, they're abusing them. And the child is becoming very angry or dysfunctional. They're not like they used to be. They're not happy children anymore. They're withdrawn. All kinds of things can happen from abuse. So people get into drugs. People stop being good at school. People withdraw from their friends. All kinds of stuff.
Right.
So you want that in that paragraph. Then you need the design analysis paragraph, which we just went through, which none of this is describing it. It's not talking about, so you want to start that one with what the eye sees and kind of go through, if you're looking at the image, what do you see first and second and third and fourth, and then sort of analyze it. How does light and dark work in the image to communicate a message? Color. Is there something in the focus? Is there something in the background? All of those questions that we had when we looked at chapter 6 on those 2 pages. We're going to be putting that stuff in. And if there's any symbols. So with that one, I do think the kitchen table is sort of a symbol. Kitchen is the happiness, the happy look of the kitchen is often symbolic of how the family is, you know, how people feel. If it's the family, is a happy family or not so happy. You know, even poor people will put up fun stuff. They have magnets on the refrigerator. They have, I don't know, a couple flowers. They might have very colorful walls. They paint it bright, or curtains or something like that.
Okay.
And I don't know if you pointed it out, but there's normally a woman should be there. It's a kitchen. That's where the woman, there's pretty curtains. It looks like it's got a woman's touch, but I don't see her. So that's sort of odd. There's no female. The females are nurturing, and she's not there to sort of stop what he's doing. So that's pretty odd.
Okay.
Okay. So all of that. Hey, by the way, did you look at this before?
No, because I didn't see the comments.
All right.
So why they don't appear?
So the other thing I want to ask you when you do it, I did a what do you call it, an audio recording, but what it does when I'm saying it is it just types. So I was wondering if when you look at it, it says there's like somebody talking. Do you have something like that on yours?
No.
Okay. All right. So I still have to learn how to use it because I thought, oh, I can just have a conversation, but I guess it doesn't work that way. Now I know.
So, in the Trump dehumanization, you
Yeah.
have read them?
Wait, what?
You have it, and you said you haven't graded the Trump dehumanization essay?
Did you put a new revise on this canvas?
No, because I
Oh.
didn't see the my review for that one.
Yeah. Well, I've already done all the. If it was a paper copy, I've already done all those.
Mm.
So I sent that to you in an email through Canvas a while ago.
Okay.
So let me see. What's your last name was? Oh, Mora. Right. Let me find you. So yeah, you have to revise that. I have marked revise. Yeah. So
I
you
don't
should.
I don't know why I don't see the.
Okay, hang on. Let me do this for you. We'll find it.
And by the way, I remember turning this essay on time. I don't know why it appears late.
Oh, so it's after the date, I guess, but I'm not particularly worried about that. Let me look at the sent stuff here and find. Oh, I know what I can do. There you go. Okay, let's find you. Oh, the Zoom stuff. I don't know. My screen is not moving.
I think you can like go down to the messages.
I should be able to.
Mhm.
Mine's not moving.
Let me check if I.
Yeah, if you go to inbox and where I sent you something, look and see if you've got it because I know I did it.
Do you have that date for?
Oh,
Yes,
the tape?
yes, the date for the Trump dehumanization.
Oh, the date.
Yeah.
It would be probably, I don't know. Is this all you've got? Let me see. Who's this? Okay. Let me see. Another way to do this is, yeah, I know another way to do it. Yes. Let's see if it's in this one. Ah,
Oh, I found it. I think
mine won't move.
March 25th.
What?
Did you send it the March 25th?
Oh, you see it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, and if it's a PDF or something, if you've opened it up, right? Or a
Mhm.
JPEG, if you open it up, it's marked.
It's opening.
Okay.
Oh no. Yeah, I found it.
Okay. Because for some reason my screen won't move.
No, I found it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I need. Can I turn it that one or
Yeah.
Can I?
Fix it up, and if you go back to assignments
Yes.
in the courses, let me find it. That one. I think my computer is getting one. That's probably what it is. We go to assignments. And we go down here to this one. It says rhetorical analysis of nuclear dehumanization. Post it to that, your correction to that one. Do you see what I'm looking at?
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, so it's the last assignment. Post it to that one. So you would fix up your file, fix it up, make sure it's good,
Mhm.
and then upload it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both for this Thursday.
Well, so you're still working on the visual analysis, right?
Yes.
So get that one done first, and then see where you are, and then just keep working on the other one, but get the visual analysis done first.
Okay. I will do that.
Yeah, and it's not for Wednesday, it's Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All
Well,
right.
thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Really good.
You good? Okay.
I think that will
I'm
be.
glad you asked.
Thank you. Have a
All
nice.
right. Bye. You too. Bye-bye.